Hello, my name is Wendy Myers. Thank you so much for joining me for the Live to 110 podcast. Today I have a very special guest, Jonathan Landsman of Natural Health 365.com. I'm very honored to have him on the podcast. He's a very, very busy man saving the world from death and destruction. And he came on the podcast to talk about oral health. He put on an oral health summit, which we will talk about during the podcast. And he's going to be discussing mercury fillings and why you want them removed, cavitations and root canals, and everything under the sun about oral health, even his personal oral health regime. And if you want to have fresh breath and you want to have, really good health, you have to be thinking about the dental work that you do or currently have in your mouth. Because I know, working with my own clients, if you have a lot of infections or a lot of root canals, these are breeding all kinds of toxins and infections in your body that really can drain your energy and cause pain syndromes and cause so many other problems. So we're going to be discussing that today on the podcast. Please keep in mind that this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or health condition and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Please keep in mind this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult your healthcare practitioner before engaging in anything that we suggest today on the show. Our guest is Jonathan Landsman. For over 30 years, he has been in health and fitness and is the host of naturalhealth365.com, one of the most popular natural health websites in the world. He attracts nearly 500,000 people a month, and he offers a free newsletter, a weekly podcast, which I was just recently on talking about toxic metals, and a weekend show revealing the very best information on natural health and science. His team of writers and medical experts dedicate their lives to helping others to fully recover from all sorts of health issues, including heart disease, cancer, plus many other chronic health issues. Jonathan is also the creator and host of the Natural Health 365 Inner Circle, a monthly subscription program that offers over 400 audio video programs and growing every month, featuring over 200 of the world's finest integrative healthcare providers talking about natural ways to detoxify the body and reverse disease symptoms without the need for expensive medications or risky medical procedures. You can learn more about him at naturalhealth365.com. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's great to be with you, Wendy.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, well, I guess you could probably start off very young. I was into sports, like I think most young guys are or would like to be. Played baseball and basketball through high school and then really got into racquetball. But my background also in university training is exercise physiology. And then I got into training world-class athletes, kids that wanted to get college scholarships, things like this. And the big thing that really turned it for me in terms of getting into more the natural health world was my mom. She actually, I was complaining about stitches, which are pains in your side when you're running, that kind of thing. I said, God, what could I do to feel better on these runs I was doing? I was training for triathlons. I was getting into road racing and marathons and these kind of things. She said, why don't you go see a nutritionist? She didn't say anything else more than that. And I went and I saw this woman and she told me about certain foods to eat instead of others. And, I was skeptical. I was one of these kids that thought they knew everything, rolling my eyes, making faces at it. But I listened to her. And so I made some changes, got rid of certain foods that were hurting me, went out for a training run. And it was amazing. It was like the next day or so, much better. Went back to see her a couple times. She gave me some books. And, long story short, she got me into macrobiotics. And so I started training over in Boston and getting certified as a macrobiotic counselor. And macrobiotics was sort of a large view, is sort of the way they define that word, large view of life. And a macrobiotic diet, which of course a lot of people know about. But it really taught me a lot about the energetics of food, how food affects your health. And so I was like, wow, this is really something. With my exercise physiology degree, none of this was taught in university, learning about stress testing and all of these things. And I thought this would be great to work with my clients, one-on-one training, and then eventually running health clubs like I got into and running very large facilities. I said this would be great, incorporating food with the exercise. And so that's kind of where I started from all this. And now, all the way up to today where I'm full time on the internet, talking to a lot more people than just one-on-one.
Yeah, so you started naturalhealth365.com, and just it's a huge website and there's so much amazing information on that. How did you get started with, founding that website?
I got, again, another woman in my life. Got to give all the credit to my wife. Here it was, I was busy, working with people one on one and talking to them over the years. I've been in the industry now over 30 years and, telling them everything that I had learned about how to eat better and live better and all of these things. And even my clients were saying, you got to do something as websites got more popular and the internet. You got to get a website. You got to do these things. And again, rolling my eyes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was too busy actually just making a living and working with people one on one. But it was my wife that really pushed me and said, hey, you've got to get this done. And eventually we just created another site, which is long gone now. But it got me into the spirit of creating content, doing shows like what you're doing, Wendy, and doing audio interviews, telephone interviews, putting out articles. And then eventually we realized, hey, we need to do something, a lot more modern, a lot more high tech. And we got into Natural Health 365. And here we are a few years later. And yeah, we're serving close to 500,000 people a month. But by next year, 2017, we're looking at probably closer to 1 million people we're going to reach every single month throughout the world.
Wow, that's amazing. So why are you so passionate about natural health and living? Because a lot of people kind of make their way there through their own health issues and health journey. What is your passion behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that story. It really wasn't anything where I could tell you, oh, I had type 2 diabetes, I was extremely overweight, none of those things. It was really more of a self serving thing. How could I be a better athlete, improve my athletic performance? So my mom turning me on to this nutritionist, that was really, it was mind blowing. And my personality is more black and white, like, okay, wow, I got something now and I really plow into things and really get, dive deep into things. So studying macrobiotics really turned me on to a whole other world. And it got me to be a very different kind of healthcare provider, a health trainer, if you will, health coach. So that was part of it. But also my dad, if you go all the way back before that, my dad was a teacher, always loved to teach. So that was a big influence on me, learning that teaching is a value, right? It's fun. But also another thing as well is a lot of my relatives did die of cancer or heart disease. So all through the years, I would see them dropping one after the other. So again, putting all of that together, I just felt like, this is what I'm here for, is to learn and to be into this, which I enjoy a lot, and to share it with other people. It's that simple.
So you talk a lot about on your website the underlying causes of health issues. What are the four most overlooked causes of chronic disease?
Right. Well, that's a popular title of what I talk about on a lot of different shows, getting out to different audiences that have not heard this kind of message before, Wendy. But first, let me just say that the obvious, right, which is that all of us are, experience some sort of illness stems from inflammation. That's easily acceptable. Conventional medicine recognizes this inflammation, right? And poor nutrition and definitely too many toxins, right? But when we look at conventional medicine and integrative medicine, and I really underline that, even integrative physicians out there, because again, I've produced over 400 programs over the last many years, talking to some of the top integrative doctors in the world. And I got to be honest with you, Wendy, a lot of them over the years haven't even talked about these four areas. And they really stem from being inside the mouth, those being mercury based silver fillings, root canal treated teeth. We're talking about gum disease, where a lot of this doesn't cause people pain. And the fourth one, cavitations. And I don't mean cavities, I mean cavitations, which are when people, quite innocently think, everything's all okay. They got a tooth extracted, a wisdom tooth, or, another kind of tooth was pulled out of their mouth 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they have no pain. But what happens is there's a bone infection that takes place inside the mouth. And again, all of these things inside the mouth are affecting the rest of the body. Chronic fatigue, brain fog, autoimmune conditions, heart disease, which we do even conventionally recognize, the mouth being connected to toxins in the mouth, being connected to problems in the heart. So these four areas that I just discussed with you, Wendy, inside the mouth do deeply affect other areas of the body. And I would make this a special call out to all healthcare providers. Make this a part of your healthcare practice, right? Even if you're not able to handle it in your medical practice or your healthcare practice, at least find someone who you can work with and definitely talk about these things with the people that you know, because this is something that's worthwhile to look into, the problems in the mouth and how, when they're fixed, you can really reverse the problems that you might be feeling in your life.
I 100% agree with you. I think people don't realize that this anaerobic bacteria that grows underneath root canals or in cavitations causes this chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And every meridian in your body is attached to your teeth. So it just affects every single aspect of your body and your health and chronic pain. It causes so many different issues. So let's talk first about mercury fillings. If someone has mercury-based fillings in their mouth, what, in your opinion, do you think that they should do?
Yeah, well, I mean, the short answer is get them out of your mouth as fast as possible. But I've got to quickly say after that, Wendy, not to take that out of context, you have to be very careful. And the reason why I say that is I've interviewed in my podcast and my show on the weekend many people who have talked about not knowing about this warning ahead of time, just simply fixing a cracked tooth, let's say, that happened to have a mercury based filling right inside. And again, these mercury based silver fillings, as conventional dentistry likes to call them, they look silver in the mouth, but 50% of it is mercury, which is neurotoxic. When those teeth are then drilled with these high speed drills, if the patient is not well protected, you're talking about vision loss, autoimmune diseases, neurological problems that are very serious in some cases almost immediately. I mean, some of the more innocent things that happen when people have these mercury fillings in or getting worked on, what happens is when these people get treated, even right away initially, they just might feel exhausted, right? And they sort of chalk that up to a stressful dental session. But it's really the toxins. So be careful about protecting yourself before getting these mercury fillings out of your mouth. And that does require making sure that you can do the best you can to clean up your digestive system, make sure that you're eating well. There may be involved some nutritional supplements that you have to take, like vitamin C, really important. And then when it comes to the actual day that you get the silver fillings taken out, the mercury fillings, make sure that you're working with a dentist who is well trained in protecting you. And there's a lot of things. We can go through that if you like, if we have the time. But the bottom line is to find a dentist who is certified in, like, an organization like the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. Great organization, about 700 plus dentists from around the world, mostly the United States and Canada. But these dentists are well trained, have got the experience, and it's important that you ask questions and make sure that your dentist knows what they're doing, because a lot of them will just say, oh sure, we'll just take them out, and that would be a big mistake in my opinion. Don't do it that way. Make sure it's safely done.
And I think also you don't want to go to a dentist that is currently doing mercury fillings in people's mouths because they clearly have no clue what they're doing or they don't care.
Yeah,
And
that's it. That's important. You're talking about mercury safe versus mercury free, right? So there are dentists who are saying, sure, oh, no, no, we don't put those in. But, again, with a little bit of questioning, it's not really a big deal at all, Wendy. You can find out, what exactly do those dentists do in terms of drilling those mercury fillings out of the mouth And, do they place the mercury fillings in? Just asking straight up on the telephone before you get into the office, you're going to quickly have an idea where they're coming from.
Yes, absolutely. And those mercury fillings also have silver in them, which kills your gut bacteria. They have cadmium in them. They have nickel. They have so many other toxic metals. It's not just mercury. And so many people report that once they get them out and they kind of get over that hump of the fatigue or other symptoms people can have, is they feel so much better. Some people have like immediate relief from their symptoms, but is there kind of like a pace? I've heard when you're removing mercury fillings, you should maybe only do 2 at a time. Some people have a whole
Yeah,
mouthful of mercury and probably not a good idea to just attack it all at once.
right. I had 14 amalgams, dental mercury-based silver fillings in my mouth, Wendy. And again, for me in my situation, when I was in my 40s and I had no outward symptoms really to speak of, no serious illness. Yeah, you're right. I definitely did it in stages, 4 visits, 4 different quadrants of the mouth, upper right, lower right, lower left, upper left. And I did them in 4 different visits. But be honest with you, Wendy, some people with stage 4 cancer, they may have to be put out with anesthesia. I know that sounds extreme for some people, but I know dentists who will do the entire job, get the mercury fillings out. We're going to talk about root canal treated teeth and, take care of gum infections or cavitations and, really clean up that body right away on one visit. Again, everybody is different. It depends on the severity. Just one more quick note, Wendy, if people are wondering, what are you talking about? How does the mercury in the mouth go throughout the body? It's sort of encapsulated in that metal and doesn't get out. That is the word conventionally speaking, but it's completely not true. If you look at a very famous video on the internet, just sort of like a smoking tooth, if you will, it's a 25-year-old tooth that has been taken out of the mouth. And when it was really scrubbed, not even that hard, with an eraser tip, you could actually see the fumes coming off of that tooth of the mercury just going into the air. And so, what that represents is a very easy way for the mercury inside the mouth to just mix with the saliva, go down into the digestive tract, cause all of this inflammation, this leaky gut, these things we talk about, go into the bloodstream, go into the lymphatics. Every time we're brushing our teeth, every time we're drinking or eating hot and cold food and chewing, these are very, very easy ways for all of that mercury to get in and disperse itself throughout the whole rest of the body. And so this is not something that should be taken lightly at all, Wendy. I hope that after listening to this podcast, people take it seriously and they'll look into it if they have this as an issue.
Another interesting side effect when you have mercury toxicity is bruxism, where you grind your teeth. So that adds another dangerous component is if you have mercury fillings, a lot of people who grind their teeth, it's from the mercury and that releases more mercury into your body. I had that symptom, which went away after I reduced my mercury levels, interestingly enough.
Yeah, great point.
And so let's talk about root canal treated teeth. This is a big problem. People, they let a cavity go too long, and then the dentist automatically wants to do a root canal and really doesn't give people other options. They don't have informed consent. They don't know the consequences of that or what will happen or what metals the dentist may be putting into that root canal. So what do you think about root canal treated teeth?
I don't like them at all. I mean, again, from all of the dentists, and I've spoken to some of the top integrative physicians and also the top biological holistic dentists in the United States and throughout the world for that matter. And I can tell you, even some of these cancer centers in Europe talk about, wow, you have a serious health problem, right, Wendy, like cancer. There's nothing we can do for you until you clean up the issues in the mouth. And one of the biggest things besides mercury are these root canal treated teeth. I put it this way, it's really simple for people to kind of get their minds around. And that is, where else in the body do you think that a physician, let's just think, a surgeon, would kind of go in, God forbid you had some surgery and you had some procedure done, and they're digging in there with a scalpel and doing the things that they do. But then they discovered something dead, a dead part of you in your body, right? I mean, some sort of infection, and it's a dead spot, and just sewed you back up and just left it in your body and just completely ignored it. people will be listening to this like, what does that got to do with the root canal treated tooth? As soon as the tooth is treated this way, you're killing nerves, right? You're creating a dead spot in your body. And the extension to that is in that area where the tooth was treated, a root canal treated tooth, you want to think of it very simply like the inside of a shower stall, right? That's not well taken care of. This sort of that dead area, if you will, at the bottom of a shower stall where mold gathers up, bacteria starts to collect. And so these root canal treated teeth are like a magnet for these bacteria to, bury themselves into these areas and proliferate. So they're spreading around not only in that area, but then again, seeping into the rest of the body. And so we can talk a little bit more if you like later on, if you want, about meridians, but these energy pathways in our body are connected to every single tooth in our body. And women in particular might be very interested in this. Is a very popular thing is, of course, breast cancer concerns. And you can see that each tooth are connected to areas like the breast, reproductive area, kidneys, large intestines, the stomach. It goes on and on. So that if you're suffering with one of these health problems and you've done so many other things, you're doing detoxification, you're eating healthy foods, you're taking great supplements, you're trying meditation. And again, I'm not putting down all of those things. They're extremely important and improve the quality of your life. But if you're leaving a root canal treated tooth in your mouth that's constantly exposing you to extremely harmful infections, bacteria that are going into the rest of your body, you're fighting an uphill battle all the time. Remove that toxic threat, and that's what my message is always about, is trying to get away from the toxins. As I'm sure you talk about this all the time, Wendy, as well. Remove yourself from the threats and nourish your body as much as possible. Wow, that's a great combination, no?
Absolutely. And I have a root canal on the very front of my tooth. I had when I was 12, I fell over on my bike and broke the first two teeth hair off, and then I had to get plastic teeth or the composite that they use, and then eventually at some point one of the teeth abscessed, and then I had to do a root canal on it. And a couple times I've had it redone, and when the cap comes off and they're redoing the root canal, it is the most ungodly smell. It's just this horrible infection that is festering and brewing and draining energy and exhausting the immune system resources. And for me, it's something I've been putting off because the only alternative is to either be a pirate and have no tooth or do an implant. Is that correct?
Right. You're 100% right. And it's a deeply personal decision, looking at symptoms you may have. But you're right. There are dentists that do different ways of doing these implants, and that gets into so much detail. But again, it's discussed in great length at the holisticoralhealthsummit.com at that event that I did, the summit, that really gets into these things. But you're right, Wendy. It's something that can only be dealt with that way, or if it's in the front of your mouth, as you're saying, sort of the pirate look is the other alternative, which is a tough one, especially when you're looking beautiful on podcasts like you are.
Yeah, it was really fun when my cap came out a couple times and had to emergency go to the dentist to get it put back on. But yeah, and then sometimes dentists will put mercury or other metals in that root to plug it up. They have to use something to like plug up that root, and it's really is a barbaric. It's a barbaric procedure, and I think a lot of dentists are so quick to go there. Your dentist telling you to get a root canal, time for a second opinion from perhaps a biological dentist. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And also, again, besides the front area, which is probably obviously the most difficult decision to make, pull a tooth, leave it open, or just get an implant in there and not deal with a root canal treated tooth. In other areas of the mouth where you don't see it as much, pulling the tooth and leaving it open. I mean, again, if somebody's 75, 80 years old, 20 years, or more, 110 years
Yeah.
of life, you make your decision whether you want to just leave it open Or sometimes, like a pontiff, they have these bridges and different options that you may have that are far less toxic for you to do.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list of things to do. I have to locate the right dentist to do that work. So
Right.
let's talk about gum disease. This is a big, big problem. A lot of people not getting their teeth cleaned enough and not flossing and taking care of
So
the oral hygiene, the oral health. So let's talk about how gum disease can cause major health problems and can be a big underlying root cause of disease.
right, we say most overlooked areas, right? Because I really try to put a bright light on gum disease. And you're right, Wendy. A lot of people, again, what if you were slightly bleeding out of your arm, during the day, or you were bleeding out of your toe or your finger, and, all of a sudden you just notice blood each and every day? I mean, you would immediately take care of it. But with gum disease, it really starts with just brushing your teeth and sort of noticing that, when you're spitting out, there's blood when you spit out. That may be normal, Wendy, for literally millions of people, but that's gum disease, right? That's infections in the mouth that are causing inflammation, again, not just in the mouth. That inflammation is representative of inflammation in the rest of your body to some degree or another. And the infections, the spirochetes, these are nasty things that you don't want in your mouth. They're represented not just in your mouth, but they do travel to distant parts of your body, causing all kinds of health problems. So, gum disease is a serious problem. It can be easily changed. The problem is, and again, we're going to talk about this probably towards the end of the show, is not enough dentists are talking about this. Not enough integrative healthcare providers are talking about this at all. In fact, I had one biological dentist. She's an amazing woman with over 40 years of experience who spoke to me about how literally reckless, careless, it's malpractice to be able to take somebody into your dental office and just say, "Hey, how you doing today? Let's go in there and let's do your dental checkup and your cleaning, and we'll scrape around and get you all cleaned up." And then you start bleeding, and all that infection goes into the rest of your body, and there's no health history taken, Wendy. I mean, maybe a little bit, how's it going today? But if that person has chronic fatigue, autoimmune diseases, any kind of cardiovascular heart concerns at all going on, and you're recklessly getting a dental checkup with a cleaning, that is so dangerous. The first thing is to take care of that gum disease. And it can be done by flossing every day, brushing correctly from the gum, away from the gum, towards the tooth and away. That way, sweeping from the top down on the upper teeth and from the bottom up from the bottom teeth. So, brushing correctly, using essential oils, which are great to deal with those bacteria in the mouth. Sea salt, if you don't want to buy essential oils because of a cost issue, sea salt and water, a sea salt water rinse is just fantastic. Coconut oil is amazing. Coconut oil pulling. And that's where you're swishing about a teaspoon to a tablespoon, depending on how much you can handle, of coconut oil, swishing around in your mouth 10, 15, 20 minutes, as much again as you can. And don't swallow that oil, but spit it out in a garbage pail, not in your drain, because it could affect your plumbing and you don't want to clog things up. But oil pulling and essential oils and just cleaning your mouth up, and a biggie to fight gum disease, to literally get rid of it, and to just have these gum pockets, right, which harbor the bacteria, have these gum pockets literally shrink up and heal, is to hydrofloss. It's an amazing thing. It's a
Yes.
tool that you use where you blast the water and it blasts every area. And I tell you, Wendy, little oil pulling 10, 15 minutes, or hydroflossing, which may take you whatever, 6 minutes or so, a bucket or two of the water that you're blasting in, one round, maybe 2 rounds, depending on how severe things are in your mouth. When you're done with these kind of things, Wendy, your mouth feels so alive, so fresh, so healthy. As you start to do it, Wendy, you get hooked, and you want to keep doing it.
Yeah, my dad got me into using a water pick, which is the water, hydro flush. And I've been using one since I was a, preteen, because he was just all into dental health for some reason. And
Yeah.
health, read a lot about that stuff because we know even back in the 80s that uh mouth infections lead to heart disease and lead to infections in the valves of the heart and cause all kind, and that's just the tip of the bucket. There's so many other health issues and pain syndromes and chronic inflammation that can be caused by mouth infections.
Yeah, see, that's just it, Wendy. I love what you just said at the end because I mean, I'm in this space now many years and I hear leaky gut and irritable bowel syndrome and, Crohn's and autoimmune diseases, right? And chronic fatigue and brain fog and dementia. I did the Alzheimer's Dementia Summit.com. It's another event because my dad is going through Alzheimer's, unfortunately, 3,000 miles away from me. And I have family members who don't, let's put it this way, I'll say it gently, they don't exactly think like I do. And so they're in control of his health care, or I should say his sick care. And, it's not going well for him. But, we talk about all of these things, right, as separate problems. And rarely do you say, wow, are you addressing issues in the mouth, which could be exposing you to a tremendous amount of toxins, inflammation, and then that over time, when it's ignored, leads to metabolic disorders and all your biochemistry breaks down. Your body doesn't work well over time for many people. Not everybody. Sometimes just changing your diet, doing a little something with a supplement makes a world of a difference. Maybe the toxins in your mouth are not that bad. But for those people who are suffering, Wendy, I just love that you're doing a show like this because if they feel like they've done everything but haven't fully looked into issues around the mouth, I just see from experience over the last many years that it is worth the effort to look into this.
Yes, it's you have chronic health issues, go to your mouth first and see what cleans up, see what symptoms resolve once you get all your dental work done. And, a lot of these dentists will work with you. They'll let you do a payment plan. I have a friend of mine, she needed $30,000 worth of dental work. A dentist did horrifying work on her and ruined her mouth and just devastating and painful. And she's got major chronic health issues, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, leaky gut, diabetes, like you name it. And it's because of her mouth issues. And she's finally getting it done and resolving it and having really good responses and with her other health conditions. So, and she found a guy to work with her to make payments. So don't think that, just the financial part, you can overcome that by making payments with some of these doctors.
Yeah, and look, years ago when I wasn't making as much money as now, I had it on my mind. Hey, I've got to get this done with the mercury fillings. It was probably, I would say, 2, 3 years of just saving up. It was on my mind, Wendy, to get it done, but putting money aside every single month. I mean, it was thousands for me. When you talk about a driving force about why I do what I do, the Holistic Oral Health Summit.com, that whole event was created because not just my own mercury fillings, but my wife had gone through so much with a very bad dentist that we just decided when we learned so much through my interviews and talking to people, we just sat with each other and said, we have to do this event. We've got to share this news with other people because we spent literally, that figure is, pale compared to what we spent and many others do. They don't know until oftentimes it's too late. So it's important to take care of these things as soon as possible.
Yeah, and you want to be careful who you choose. Say, I had, for strictly cosmetic reasons, I had some mercury fillings removed and replaced with composite when I was 21. Luckily, I had the foresight to do that. But years later, sometimes you have to have the fillings redone, and they left mercury underneath the composite. They didn't completely remove it, and it was just shocking. So take a mirror and look inside your mouth and make sure that all the mercury is gone before you let them fill it in. Just a hint. And so let's talk about cavitations.
Right.
What is a cavitation and why should we care about this? And what are maybe some of the signs that people have one?
Right. Again, a lot of times these cavitations, which are bone infections that fester in the body for a long time, come from, and there's other cavitations in other parts of the body, but let's just focus on the mouth, which is a biggie. People get wisdom teeth extracted, 10, 15, 20 plus years ago, right? Or a tooth pulled out. And they don't think much about it, Wendy, because there's no physical pain in a lot of cases with a cavitation. But what happens is the tooth is extracted poorly by a dentist who may not have meant anything bad against you. They just didn't do a great job cleaning out the area, going down to the bone when pulling out a tooth. A lot of times, Wendy, a dentist can poke around when a tooth is pulled and literally just simply feel if it's a little mushy. You could leave that alone, Wendy. The person leaves, there's a little bleeding. Of course, there's bleeding when you pull the tooth, but when a person leaves, 2, 3, 4 hours later, the bleeding stops, the gauze is not there anymore, person doesn't feel any pain, the healing takes place, tissue, all of this. But the problem is that mushy area, the dentist didn't go down and grind down to the bone while the person was numb to clean out the area properly of all kinds of infection that could be there. That's a dentist that just did it a little too fast. And there are dentists who not only can go down to the bone and make sure that the area is properly cleaned out, but also use ozone to really inject that into the area several times while the tooth is extracted and he's going back in, cleaning up the area, taking a break and blasting ozone liquid into that area again and again. Sometimes, depending on how serious the infected area is that they're cleaning out, it may be 2, 3, 4 times that they go in with ozone to really make sure that they clean out and clear away all the debris. When it's not done properly, which millions of people are suffering with right now, these infections are affecting the rest of the body. People, symptoms, signs of it can be, again, everything we've talked about, Wendy. Someone who's feeling tired, someone who has neurological issues, definitely anybody who's suffering with this dementia issues. It's a huge concern that's on the rise. Any kind of serious chronic disease really needs to look at the history of their mouth. If they don't have mercury, silver fillings, and again, that can be deceptive. As you said, Wendy, you have work done, and there's little pieces of mercury still in there, and the people don't know. These can show up on an x-ray. We don't want to do x-rays too much, but in this case, it's necessary to take a good look at the mouth, see if there's any metals in there that might be hurting you. And in terms of infections, it's about looking with a carefully trained eye. The dentist has to have experience looking for these things and appreciating the problems that we're talking about today.
I love that you brought up ozone because this is such an easy, inexpensive tool that dentists can use. And it's mind-boggling to me why more dentists aren't using it, even biological dentists that are supposed to be kind of the cream of the crop. It's just such an amazing, it's just a form of oxygen and it just kills all the bacteria. And I use periodically an ozone olive oil gel toothpaste. And man, that is strong stuff. It just really infuses all through your sinuses. But the tiniest little amount, it's like $20 on Amazon, the tiniest little amount of ozone toothpaste kills a lot of bacteria in your mouth.
Yeah, a lot of what you're saying is so simple, but it comes down to dentists not knowing about it, not learning about it in school. We could go on, but with the right information, a lot of these issues, which at first, Wendy, when someone's listening to this, I hope they don't feel very overwhelmed. I say it all the time with the shows I produce. I hope it's a spark. It's something that resonates with somebody that makes them, this is it. I got to make the change. It's the kind of person I am. When I hear something that resonates with me, I jump in, both feet, both arms, and I go after it. I hope that it's something that people decide to really look into more. And you know what? Just take it one step at a time. Do one thing at a time. It took me a long time to get up to saving up enough money to get the mercury out, but then to learn to get into other habits of oil pulling, using essential oils. These are things I never did before. Oh, it's weird at the beginning. But you know what? You just make the decision. I'm going to buy this thing. It's 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. It's time for me to do this now. Just change the habits, and get started. And as an exercise physiologist, I used to always say to my people, and I'm sure you talk about this a lot too, Wendy, changing a habit, don't expect so much in one day. Just relax with it, do something that you can do. And 3, 4, 6 weeks later, wow, what a difference in such a short time. But I'm going to throw out a number, Wendy. I mean, that 3 weeks is really critical. That 21 days of consistently doing something, drinking more water, eating more organic food in one way or another, saving up money for 3 weeks in a row every single day towards your dental visit where you can afford to do something, it's just take it one small step at a time,
Yeah, you're better off cleaning up your mouth and doing your dental work than you are taking a ton of supplements to try to improve your health. Save your money and spend it on your dental work, and everything else will fall into place, and you can do that stuff later. Seriously. So, what do you think about mouth probiotics?
I think they're good. You can do probiotics in the mouth, you can take them internally. Again, do most people eat maybe a little too much sugar? Do most people have imbalances in their digestive tract, which does start in the mouth? Wow, what a radical concept, right? I go to school, anatomy, physiology. I learn all about stress testing and VO2 max, all of these things. And never once was it talked about that your digestive system starts in the mouth, and that the concept of your mouth all the way through your esophagus, stomach, intestinal area, when you go in there, it's literally the outside of your body. It's not yet the deep inside of your body, and that environment should be respected. What we put in there really matters, and that a healthy balance of the bacteria so important in the mouth, alkaline, acidic in our stomach, that this whole environment and chemistry should be really kept up. It should be top priority for us because that's the first line of defense, right? Something coming in like that being recognized by our body. Hey, this is a good thing. I'll let it into my body, bloodstream, lymphatics, or you know what? I'm going to send some guys down there, some soldiers to beat this thing up, and I'm going to wall it off and I'm going to keep it away and just eliminate it out of my body. What an amazing concept. It's really turned my head around. So, yeah, I mean, that's a long answer.
Yeah.
Probiotics is they're great to do, and in many cases, a necessity.
What does your ideal oral health regimen look like?
Okay. Well, in the morning, it's brushing. I have herbal. My routine has herbal liquid rinses. I do oil pulling. I have essential oils and neem that I put on my toothbrush. So I mix it up now at this point, Wendy. Again, it's not overwhelming for me. It's not complicated. I have a routine that I go through. Is it the ideal routine for everybody? I would say no. If someone's new at it, a sea salt rinse, water rinse might be the best way to go, or some oil pulling to start off with. But, brushing, as I explained before, proper way of brushing. Don't scrub so hard. Don't try to, brush off everything so hard with your brush and really be abrasive with your gums. Definitely do the hydroflossing every day. A hydrofloss machine blasting out your mouth at least once a day is great. But again, Wendy, people have really bad situations. Serious gum disease, huge pockets. If you go to a dental hygienist and they're not checking for your pockets and they're not giving you a number, that's a serious problem, Wendy. You got to find another dental office. I got to be very honest with you. You go in with a little instrument, right? And you just checking, and the dental hygienist will read it off to you. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, whatever those numbers are. Those are very small pockets. If the dental hygienist is telling you 4, 5, 6, 7, these are serious pockets in your gums. You risk losing your teeth, but more importantly, These are places where all the bacteria, really gather around, and they stay in there, they fester, they replicate, and they spread throughout the rest of the body. So, depending on how serious a problem is for somebody, they may have to hydrofloss once, twice, three, four times a day, oil pulling in the morning and at night, essential oils each and every time, maybe two, three times a day when brushing their teeth. Everybody's different, but bringing these things into your life, the hydrofloss, the oil pulling, the sea salt rinses, essential oils, whatever it is you can physically do comfortably and what you can afford, yeah, it's a win-win situation. You're only going to feel so much better. And of course, like you said, before anything I just said, if you've got root canal treated teeth, cavitations, you've got mercury based fillings, you've got gum disease, you're also going to need to partner up with a dentist that you feel like you can really have a good conversation. Somebody who you feel like can listen to you, like I feel like you do, Wendy. You're a great listener. You're listening, you can connect with somebody. So important. You bring up mercury to somebody in a dental office, and the dentist is all uptight with you and seems to be short tempered. I got news for you, Wendy. They're probably overexposed to mercury themselves. They've got health issues. You know what? It's time to find somebody else that you feel comfortable with. I would like people to stop accepting less than the best kind of care from family, from friends, and certainly from healthcare providers. If you're not happy, pardon the pun, follow your gut. Listen to that, respond to it, and find someone else. You're going to know when you're happy with the person that you're partnering up with.
Absolutely. And I had one little tip that I really like to do with my oral hygiene is using Manuka honey toothpaste. It's wonderful. I love Manuka honey, and I use this Manuka Health, Manuka honey, and propolis toothpaste. And Manuka honey is amazing because it kills bacteria in 6 different ways, and no bacteria can become resistant to it. So it's a great fight in fighting bad breath and periodontal disease and other types of bacteria in your mouth. And so it doesn't harm your good bacteria either, which is great.
Yeah, it's all about creating a great environment so that you don't have to be concerned about these things.
Yes, absolutely. And so, if someone wanted to know more information about oral hygiene, where can they go?
Okay, well, at the risk of sounding like a cheap commercial, I really truly believe that it's a fantastic resource, not just because of what I say, but because of literally the hundreds and hundreds of emails we get all the time, every month, from people, dentists, and people, general public, about what we did with the Holistic Oral Health Summit, and you can find that at holisticoralhealthsummit.com. If you don't want to get that event, listen to all these interviews for some reason, definitely at the very least, make sure that the dentist that you're working with, the organization that I highly recommend that you look for is the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. They have great information on their site. I mean, certainly you can go to naturalhealth365.com, and we have lots of great free resources there as well in terms of podcasts and articles that we produced over the years. But these are what I feel would be a great place to start to get the kind of information that you need to know what kind of action you best want to take for yourself.
Do you have a gift for the listeners or something free that they could access to learn more about oral health?
Yeah, again, I know it's going to sound like, oh, that's way too much, but it is. It's a lot that we offer. If you go to naturalhealth365.com and you click the link at the top of the page on our homepage that says free shows, every week we produce a weekend show called the Natural Health 365 Talk Hour, where we have healthcare providers talking about things like this in depth. But when you become a Natural Health 365 newsletter subscriber, we give away a lot of free gifts, Wendy. And we do talk about oral health issues, Alzheimer's and dementia, and many other things that we provide in transcripts, PDFs, in-depth interviews on dealing with infections naturally. So a lot of these things are to support you in your health, and we just give them away to you as being a subscriber at naturalhealth365.com.
I'm a subscriber myself, and I love getting your newsletter because you have a lot of up-to-date information, almost like health news. And you recently had an article on the flu vaccine and the squalene that is in the new flu vaccine and how that can promote autoimmune disease. Because when you inject this vaccine, you're developing this this immune response to the squalene in the vaccine, and that can attack all the squalene in so many tissues in your body. It's just horrifying. So for that, I think that's such important work that you're doing with reporting on health news like that.
Thank you.
And so I have a question I like to ask all of my guests. What do you think is the most pressing health issue in the world today?
Well, not to go on too long because I know our time is limited, but in a nutshell, I think, Wendy, we talked about it a lot today. And it's the bottom line is too many toxins, number one, especially these days, more than, say, maybe 50, 90, 100 plus years ago. We are surrounded by toxins, but we have to, each and every one of us, we have to look at where we are being exposed the most. If you're someone like me from years ago with 14 mercury based silver fillings, I mean, you could talk about the environment, the planet, yada, yada, yada. When you got 14 mercury based silver fillings in your mouth, the toxic exposure is enormous, very close to your head. So minimizing toxic exposure as much as possible in the food, in the water that you're drinking. Make sure that it's pure and clean spring water, reverse osmosis if you have to just take out the chemicals. And the other thing is obviously a lack of nutrition. That's clear as well. So between too many toxins messing with our biochemistry and a lack of nutrition, this is what's causing the vast majority of the problems that most people are suffering with. And I would say above everything else is a lack of education being the most dangerous thing. And I would target specifically, real quick, Wendy, the literal censorship that's going on these days. It is horrific. Thank God we still have the ability to communicate like this, Wendy, but it is harder and harder for the average person to just go onto the computer and use a search engine to find the information they need for the problems that they're suffering with. They don't even know that it's a problem. They go on the internet and they don't realize that the search engines are engineering what they show you, and it's all just conventional information. They're not showing people this kind of information, which is why it's important, really important these days more than ever, to subscribe to people like the work that you do or what I do at Natural Health 365 is to connect, to hang out with the right people. Make sure your friends are well educated, maybe better than you, your family, because those influences have a huge impact on what's going to be happening to you. So, I hope that wasn't too much, but I think those three issues are seriously affecting a lot of people, unfortunately, in a very negative way. And so now we have the things, we know what the truth is, and we can kind of, reverse this, change things around.
Yeah, I so agree with you. I think health information censorship and health freedom issues are so huge because my friend owned a PR company, or his father owned one. You can pay a PR company to keep any information out of the internet or out of the newspapers that you want. And so, like my friend, his parents own a company. They kept Bin Laden's family out of the newspapers and out of the internet. And so you can, I think a lot of big pharma and pharmaceutical companies will pay to have information not be on the internet, and they pay for websites like Quackwatch that downplay the benefits of natural health modalities and people promoting natural health and actually helping a lot of people. And same with vaccines. 8 years ago when I was researching vaccines, I went on the internet. I could not find any negative things about vaccines
Right.
because there was all these websites paid for by big pharma to show research and vaccines in a very good, very healthy light. So it's very difficult to go on a search engine and search for something and get readily available answers that you can trust.
So back to censorship, right? We got pounded when I did the Alzheimer's Dementia Summit. One of the many emails I would put out to everybody on our list. We have close to 200,000 people on our subscription list now. And I would put out that we got censored. That was huge. I mean, it was almost like it was a godsend, right? It was good that we got censored because we got a lot more attention in our audience about what was going on. But people were asking us, what are you talking about? Who's censoring the Alzheimer's and Dementia Summit? When we did this event, it was coinciding with what conventionally speaking was being put out about Alzheimer's disease. And conventionally speaking, flat out, everywhere you go, the Alzheimer's Association, anywhere you go, the major universities, the hospitals, there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease. Buy a purple shirt, take your Visa card out, donate money, we'll do some research, and let's try to just defeat this disease. But we know there's no cure, and we're just going to give you sob stories of people how they're dealing with things and hand holding, and it's just total nonsense. This was happening in June and July. My event was the end of July. At the end of July, they were culminating all of their campaigning with, donate money, there's no cure to Alzheimer's, with a huge event in Canada where all the pharmaceutical industry and the doctors were going to all convene, and they were going to just talk about Alzheimer's disease, right? But what happened was, here I am with a huge marketing firm, over 40 years of experience contracting with them, major campaign all set to go, banners and everything all ready. We launch it in June, and 2 days later they take it down. And our messaging was, you can treat, prevent, and reverse Alzheimer's disease despite what your doctor might be telling you. Bottom line was, their response to us was no warning, no discussion. Google censored it. Yahoo censored it. Facebook said no way. All our campaigns, which went up on the internet, were taken down immediately, and we were told we were in violation. Wendy, now some people might say, oh, Jonathan, you're making such a big deal out of this. Maybe you were in violation. Wendy, our wording of our event, you can prevent and reverse Alzheimer's, comes from two of the most well-known medical doctors who were part of my event, Dr. Dale Bredesen, Dr. Mark Hyman. We had many other doctors on, but those two in particular had been in the Huffington Post. They've been CBS, CNN. They've been in all the internet, the mainline news stories, talking about the same thing, how they actually were able to show that if you did certain things, you could reverse the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. But with an event like mine, no, we can't have it. And they shut down the campaign. So we got a lot of people to come to our event. Thank goodness. It was great. I was very grateful. But a lot of other people, Wendy, we were set to launch this out to tens of millions of people. A lot of people didn't see the messaging because it was simply kept from the public.
And who paid to have that censorship happen? Because obviously that doesn't come for free. Someone paid to do that, to sabotage it.
Right. Well, our thoughts, and again, it's just theory, but our marketing firm with over 40 years of experience in New York doing this kind of stuff with major companies, we were so excited about this, Wendy. They had never seen a response, and I'm getting goosebumps just telling you the story, so quickly to take down an ad campaign. He understood what he was getting into with us. He thought this was really an amazing issue and was excited about being the marketing arm for this for our efforts. But he was still blown away by never seeing a response so quickly. And his thoughts to me were, someone clearly tipped him off. That's all it was. People at Alzheimer's Association or somewhere like that, way up high, they clearly were watching. We know we get watched as to what we do. They saw this campaign hit, immediately contacted the powers that be and said, hey, look at this, you can't have it, and shut it down. There's no way on their own they were scouring the internet and looked at this and took it down on their own. They were the ones that approved it. The campaign went up and it was fine. So they were definitely tipped off by organizations and by people who did not want to see this message get out. And Wendy, this is happening more than ever. We could do a whole other show on it where I could provide real evidence as to how this is happening. But again, it's just so important who you hang out with, right? Where do you get your information from? That's why these email newsletters, subscribing, being privately involved with groups, and really deliberately making an effort to reach out to the places where you feel it's best to go for the information that you need. You know, Wendy, I think it's more important than ever that we do that, especially before it's the 11th hour, right? If we have stage 4 cancer and we're completely exhausted, you know, it's a little hard to start finding all of this stuff on your own. That's why it's so important to know this stuff early on and to be surrounded by people that care about you, that really, in certain ways, are smarter than you, because God forbid something happens to you, then at least you'll have the resources, the ability to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. I say that all the time on the show. You know, you want to address your health issues before you get a diagnosis. If you're tired and you're brain fogged, that's when you need to take action, not until you have a diagnosis of something else. You're tired, something is off in your body that you need to address. Just something as simple as that. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so informative. Tell the listeners where they can learn more about you and where they can find you.
Very simple. Go to naturalhealth365.com. Go to the free shows link right on the homepage. Just click it, enter your first name and email address, and become a newsletter subscriber, and we'll send you lots of great information. Wendy, thank you so much for doing a show like this. We need more shows just like this all over the world by so many more people. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
Yeah, and thank you. Your work is amazing as well, and keep up the good work. I love your newsletter. Highly recommend that the listeners go and subscribe. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to the Live to 110 podcast. You can learn more about me at live to110.com. Learn more about my healing and detox program at mineralpower.com. Have a fantastic day.